I'm going to ask a silly question, which is, in general, does the carpet match the drapes? Right? Do pubic hairs turn gray?
For those of you out there that this is, happening with, we're happy
Yeah,
to
has it
have your
happened? Like,
thoughts.
I mean, it hasn't happened to me, but I'm
I
curious.
watched
Like,
Sex and the City at least 3 times, and I saw that Samantha had this problem.
did she talk about it?
You need to put
Wait,
this on here.
No, wait,
Yes.
Samantha had,
Bozo, she dyed it, and it turned orange, and then she looked like Bozo the Clown. And then the 2000s started, and everybody got rid of it all.
I'm Sara Jane Ho, and this is Mind Your Manners, where no topic is off limits as we uncover the secrets to feeling at ease in every situation.
Today I want to focus the conversation on something that people don't talk about that often because it's so stigmatized. The truth is there's sexism around it, there's ageism, and many women feel pressured to hide or do something about it. I'm talking about gray hair, of course. For many of us, the arrival of our first gray hair presents a choice, to color or not to color. So in today's episode, we brought on a hair and scalp expert and inventor of a proud product that's taking the hair world by storm. It can actually prevent and even reverse the graying of hair. He is Jay Small, co-founder of Arey Grey. We're going to talk about hair, aging, traditional Chinese medicine, and the very personal decision of whether or not to embrace gray hair. Jay, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I really never thought that in the early stages of my career that I would spend so much time talking about gray hair, but I love that I am, somehow anointed as the, person that champions whether to embrace or to accept.
Jay, hair is such an important part of our appearance. We all want our hair looking shiny, feeling good, and in control, right? It's how we express ourselves. It influences how others perceive us, and it often defines our look. Why do we care so much about hair?
Well, I think it is something that, throughout centuries and decades is something that, kind of defines all of us in a specific way, whether that is, a powerful haircut or a softer, a sexier, right? So there's so much personality that can be expressed through our hair. It's also something that we actually have a lot of control over, right? If we add a wave to it, if we want to cut it shorter. So I think, living a majority of your life up until your, mid-20s and early 30s with that type of control, and then all of a sudden, things change. And that, we see this in, both our skincare regimens and, our diet and our body overall. But I think with hair, it is the thing that we have been told is the mark of aging. And it's the one thing that we haven't been given the opportunity to address in a way other than coloring it.
And going back to, before we even turn gray, the thing with the hairstyles, it's instantaneous. It's not like, okay, losing weight, you need to wait a couple weeks, right? Mm-hmm. Or anything else, or even if you're using a new skin cream, right, you need to wait for time. Like, you can get a haircut and it can instantly make you look different.
Point in case, I went to my barber this week and, before that, I was feeling a little frumpy. It's gray here in LA right now. It's raining. I felt gray and rainy. And all of a sudden I got a haircut and I feel, more put together, more alive, even so much so that I forgot to put hair products in my hair today.
And I could not even tell your hair looks so
great. I
great.
appreciate that. But the point is that, a haircut can do a lot for somebody's, the way we feel on the inside.
So no matter where we are in our gray journey, hair care in general is important. Tell us about your journey in hair care and how you ended up starting Arey Grey, which is a wellness brand, to delay the gray, which is now a term that I just absolutely love.
Well, it's really, if you can tell by my boots, I used to be a carpenter. And this all started...
This is in your early 20s?
I was 17, yes.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay.
And
lots of forest and trees there.
Lots of forest and trees. Lots of winter is coming, so get out of my way. And my dad owned a construction business. So I was in construction. Basically, 17, I met someone who owned a hair salon. I built his deck. And he said, hey, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, well, maybe architecture, but I don't have the money for school. He's like, why don't you become a hairstylist? You can get your clientele, then you can go from there and make your schedule for college around that. And so I went to his hair salon. There was air conditioning and beautiful women. And I was like, this place is
You're
great.
sold.
It was wonderful. And they turned my hair blue the first day. But so my plan got foiled because then I met the owner of the company, Paul Mitchell.
Is that Paul Mitchell himself? Who's the owner?
It's Paul's son, Angus.
Okay.
So Angus Mitchell, who unfortunately passed away last year, met me at 18 and said, hey, you have something that I think we would want in the company. And so kind of fast tracked me into the business.
What did he see in you?
Kindness, I think. It was in Chicago. To your point, there was a model that everybody left and she had wet hair. And so I pulled her aside and I dried her hair because it was cold outside.
Yeah,
and he came in, sat down. I didn't know who he was. And he goes, why are you doing this? And I said, I don't want her to get a cold.
Yeah, you cared.
Yeah. And I think that was, his company was filled with smart people, with talented people. And kindness is one of those things I think that from him was really important. So anyway, I ended up then working with him as a global ambassador, with and a product developer and education globally. And so I traveled for about 10 years with the brand and then finally took a break, had my own salons here in LA, had a client, saw her first gray hair around a time where I was talking people out of using hair dye. And then she didn't want to embrace it. She's like, I use SPF,
color it, yeah.
I use wrinkle creams. I use all these things for every other part of my body, Jay. How come there isn't something for aging hair? And this is my co-founder, Allison Conrad. And to her credit, she would not take no for an answer.
I saw she's a Stanford MBA grad, right?
Yes, she is. And she is one of the most inquisitive people that I know, and got to find out that there's only one gene that causes gray hair. And it's called the IRF4 gene. And what that meant was it accounts for about 30%, while the other 70% is lifestyle and vitamin and mineral deficiencies, oxidative stressors, smoking cigarettes, eating flaming hot Cheetos. Anything that the body has to defend against takes away from the non-essential function of creating your hair. It's pigment and its texture. So that was really where Arey began. I had my, knowledge of how to run a company from your heart and from, a product development side and education side. And her family was, her father is our medical advisor. He is a clinical pharmacologist. Her mom is a dietitian.
Wow.
We had a chemical engineer from MIT.
It's a match made in heaven.
We just kind of had this group that could come together, and that's where Not Today Grey came from, our first supplement. And then
so it's supplements.
Yep. So we have one supplement, which is really proud of that supplement because vitamin and minerals associated with aging hair, premature gray, but with a proprietary blend that really is taken from traditional Chinese medicine that infuses then this East meets West kind of philosophy, which is proactivity and making sure that you're getting rid of oxidative stress and free radicals while fueling the follicle to create a healthy hair strand without any hormonal disrupting or endocrine disrupting ingredients that are found in a lot of hair health supplements.
That's fascinating. I definitely want to get into the TCM aspect of it later on. So it seems like only 30% is from genetics, right?
Yeah.
Actually, recently, just yesterday, I saw on New York Post just a new article. I don't know if you saw it, saying that Gen Z are going gray and that 19-year-olds are showing off their silver tresses on TikTok, which is crazy that people are going gray younger and younger. So why do we go gray in the first place?
Understand the function of a hair strand. So the hair strand is got the follicle, which grows a hair strand, and then it has this little factory at the top, which is called the hair bulge, and that's where pigment is produced.
So melanin?
Melanin, yep. So what you have is melanogenesis, which is when your body produces pigment cells. Now, what's interesting is your body's producing pigment cells in your hair to protect your body from sun exposure. So, right. So it's like,
I guess like you have sunspots, right?
Yes. And so the skin is doing the same thing, but they're two different mechanisms, right? The hair is doing it proactively and the skin is doing it reactively. When you're exposed to skin, you're going to get more melanin production and darker. But the goal of the hair is to protect as much as possible, preserve warmth, but then also protect it from, the stress of UV and things like that. And so hair goes gray because as we age, our bodies are focused on other things, overexposed to different stressors, more stressed in general. Our diets change, our sleep habits change. We have kids, we have jobs, we live in big cities, and more things pile up. And the more and more things pile up, the body says, hey, hair is non-essential. If you want to have great hair, you're going to have to work for it.
So does everybody eventually go gray? And like, what is the normal age for going gray?
I think right now the normal age for going gray is between like 27 and 35.
That is so young.
Now, going gray is a loose term, right? Like a full head of white hair, Anderson Cooper.
Yeah.
That's later on in life. Gray hairs that you see in the mirror more intimately and personally that aren't really exposed to the world yet, that's around 27 to 35. What you guys see in the camera here on my face, this is a more advanced set, which is why I was inspired to try and get on top of this.
How old are you?
So I'm about to turn 40 this year.
Okay.
But I saw my first gray hair at 27. And in starting Arey, I was about 20% gray at that point with a father and a grandfather that were fully white. And so I was like, whether it's genetics or not, there's got to be something here that I can do and get on top of it. And so, while Allison's story was the direct, impetus, it wasn't as if I really wanted to go beyond my salt and pepper that I had at that point.
I read that by the age of 50, like half of the people in the world have usually gone like half gray. Is it different for different ethnicities?
Yes, ethnicity does matter. And ethnicity matters both from a dietary and kind of holistic lifestyle philosophy, right? All the way to the very simple fact that those with darker skin tones are less likely to have the effects of UV exposure.
Oh, so black people
Yep.
would have fewer grays.
Or they're likely to go gray later in life. Yes, because the oxidative stress causes the free radical buildup in the hair follicle, and that's a direct component of the cells not functioning well, and the result is thinning hair, aging hair, graying hair.
So if you're Caucasian, that you're most likely to go gray. What
Yes.
about Asians?
Asians are actually slightly beyond us Caucasians because I think it has a lot to do with your lifestyle habits, where there is a proactivity built into your diet and your lifestyle, and there is a prioritization toward preservation. Like what you mentioned earlier. If I don't do X now, I'm going to have a result in my 20s or 30s of a migraine, right?
Right. If I don't blow dry my hair today, I'm going to get a migraine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Etc. Yeah, we're all about that. I feel we're at a time right now where people are thinking about longevity, right? And youthfulness. And all the billionaires are looking to live forever. And they're spending, there's like no limit to how much they're spending on this. It's just like recently, did you see that Netflix show yet about that tech billionaire, Brian Johnson?
Oh, I watched it just the other day.
Yeah, so Don't Die,
Yep.
The Man Who Wants to Live Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that has something, how is that affecting like how we're turning gray and how we're thinking about gray these days?
Oh, well, I mean, I do think that there's a lot to be said. Like when we first started Not Today Gray, a big part of my ethos was responding to messaging from the body, right? And so instead of covering gray hair, this is why I was trying to talk people out of covering it. It was, before I was even a trichologist, what's the causation factor? What does it mean? If it's not genetics, if the primary cause isn't your mom or dad, are you drinking too much? Are you sleeping enough? What's your diet like? Are you juice cleansing? Are you fasting? What's your body trying to tell you about what it needs because of this change? And so I think that, there is going to be a lot more research that goes into the way in which our bodies change and what that tells us about how we should respond. Now, I think in Brian's case, there's too many factors happening to
By the
be
way,
able
he
to...
looks so unhealthy. He looks so pasty.
I don't know that it's living.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's living, but
definitely not.
But
living.
at the same point, I know that if, in full transparency, like before I started Arey, I had occasionally smoked cigarettes.
Yeah.
I didn't prioritize a healthy lifestyle. I didn't sleep well. I had a young child, and I was looking older. And then all of a sudden, I prioritize that and instead of kind of stressing about it, taking stock on it, and simultaneously, like, you look better and you feel better.
Oh yeah, good
right?
night's sleep. It's
Good
like a
night's sleep.
facelift.
Yeah, and proper diet and so I think, and less stress.
Yeah.
It's interesting how the things that cause us stress and that we respond to, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, stress causes gray. Yes, but also all the things we do when we're stressed cause more gray.
Yeah. It's amazing because I am pretty stressed and but it's amazing I barely have any gray. I'm also 39. And I got my first gray last summer. My hairdresser, who's in Shanghai, he has his own Tony and Guy salon. His name is Dino, and he's this Hong Kong guy who's working in Shanghai. He's so good. I love him. And he was cutting my hair, and he noticed a gray. He snipped it. He put it on a silver tray, and he presented it to me. And there's something very confronting about when you see your first gray. It's like, it's a flip that happens. You go from being the kid to being the adult to being your parents. Mm-hmm. And I was in denial. I was like, this cannot be. I was like, clearly it was like maybe frizzed by the hairdryer and, like this or that. If it was very much a gray hair. Yeah, it was very confronting.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I do think that even potentially is a difference culturally, right? Whereas here in America, before Arey, I would almost try and hide that gray hair because, to our point of mind your manners, to point out someone's aging, I wouldn't want to be that person, right? I would want to help them veer as much away as possible, not realizing that I'm not doing them a service. Yeah. That's actually not kind. Mm-hmm. But that was how it was at that point. And that's where we're hoping too that the world shifts. Dino presents that on a silver platter. And then he gives you a QR code for Arey. And he's like, hey, here's this in solution. Here we go. That's what we're hoping for,
But I feel like a lot of women especially feel really conflicted about gray hair. And why do you think gray hair has such a stigma for women? Do men care about going gray? I don't know. You seem to let your grays grow out.
I like my grays.
Right? The men
I was
are seen
always
as
the young guy.
It's
that's
like
right.
called like salt and pepper. Mm-hmm. And then women are seen as either outdated or incompetent or just not relevant.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It seems like you guys don't have a lot of time to thrive because if we're really young and we're too young and then, we're seen as, older or whatever through the aging hair. I mean, that's where I was really trying to push people into embracing it in the way in which their male counterparts were doing so with makeup and with just the general, like with clothing. Like, I think that while there's a societal pressure, that was the norm. And then it's now shifted where, it's almost empowering for someone to be able to present the person that they want to be. So while these 19-year-olds are embracing their gray hair on TikTok, I love that, because we're going to have to still make it healthy and they're not going to want to be entirely gray.
That's not healthy if they're going gray at 19.
Yeah. So we gotta get to the bottom of that. But I do think that, there's something that is, triggering for women. Like most things that my wife is very conscious of as a guy, I'm not seeing that.
Like what?
Whether it is a way that her clothes are falling or, the way in which she, I think sometimes women are very concerned, right? Mm-hmm. And I get that. And I think you probably should be more concerned about the other female counterparts and how they're seeing it because they're seeing what you are. Whereas honestly, us guys, we're pretty simple. We love happy, beautiful people. And, and if you feel good, that is going to resonate to us more. And so maybe that was the position I was coming from as a hairstylist.
It's a misconception that women are concerned for men. A lot of the times women are more concerned about appearances for other women.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. And that's what I hope for, because I think the societal pressure is hopefully it's going away a little bit in the way of, hair itself. As a hairstylist, you want people to not ever feel like they're like never stress about their hair. Like I never wanted to be needed.
Did you watch The Substance with Demi Moore?
I did not, no.
So it talks about her as like this celebrity, the starlet, she's 35, 40. She starts losing jobs because she's seen as getting old. So then she builds this workout empire. And it's very successful. And as soon as she turns 50, her board, who are full of like balding or gray middle-aged men, tell her that she's basically fired. She's not fit because she's too old. And so she takes a substance to reverse her aging.
Oh my God.
But it's fascinating because it's like, there she is, she's being told she's too old. But then there are these like balding and gray haired guys who are hitting up young girls.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like, so it's almost better for men to age and be seen as aging.
And that to me is like so kind of crazy, because I did see when I was, if you look at my co-founder Allison's gray hair story and my gray hair story, mine was met with excitement. Hers was not met with excitement.
You met with excitement. Why? You were like, I'm maturing.
I was like, people are going to take me seriously.
Oh my gosh.
Because up until that point, people were like, what's this young guy know about these things that I'm asking? So, you know, there is the stigma kind of on both sides. You know, there's just as much insecurity in me looking too young for most of my life.
So for me, yeah, and actually you're right.
Which is why salt and pepper, which is why we kind of like that, because finally people are like, oh gosh, because I don't know, man. I mean, before that point, you're like, what's this boy gonna tell me?
So I feel like, yeah, men grow into maturing and getting old.
Yeah.
Right. And you hear of men having midlife crises, especially if they got married too young.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they're like, oh, but I'm much more successful now. I have salt and pepper now. Like I can, you know, get attractive younger women now.
Which is
opposite of like a woman's experience, right?
That's where we go a little bit strange in our society, right?
Yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah.
But you know, it wasn't always this way, because in ancient times, gray hair was a symbol of wisdom and respect. And then, but it was like when you got to the Middle Ages, this perception began to shift, and then people were concerned with like maintaining youth and beauty. And I feel like it swings like a pendulum. The church, because I was looking into this before our talk today, the church and medieval medicine placed a premium on health and vitality. So they said that gray hair was associated with moral decline or punishment, because it indicated an imbalance in the body or an imperfection. And then you go to the Renaissance and people wore wigs to hide gray hair, but it was using white wigs. Right? It's like, wait, it's like, they're like, I have some grays, let me put on a white wig.
Oh my gosh.
And then in the 19th century was the rise of hair dye and this youthful, like unattainable ideal.
Yeah.
20th century is the height of stigma. And now I feel early 21st century, we're challenging the stigma, and there's this whole gray hair movement that's reclaiming the gray.
Well, yeah, and I think it also has to do with listening to your body and not running from it, right? It's what is my body telling me? This is, you know, the changes in our body are all a function of something. They're not just one day, poof, all of a sudden the body just decided to not do that. Because the body, you know, it is, you know, has a rhythm and a cycle to it. And we don't realize how much we have good luck as we're, you know, youthful, right? Whether that good luck is our parents feeding us healthy food or making sure that we rest and we exercise and we do positive things. And then we go to college.
Oh,
and we're we're literally coasting on fumes.
Yeah.
And then we get
like
into
no
our 20s, and then we start to build on external pressures and stress, right?
Right.
Married by a certain point, have
career,
have a child, all these different things.
Yeah, those are all stresses.
Yeah, and even if it's not getting married, if it's just kind of like living in a big city and surviving or in your career, you know, those things deprioritize the simplicity of life.
Yeah. I mean, you've worked with a lot of clients who are navigating this decision of whether to go gray or embrace it. And what have you learned about from those who choose to go gray versus those who choose to hide it? Like, how should we be thinking about our own style and what's right for us?
Well, I think that when it comes to hiding it, I always just want people to realize how much of their life is going to be committed to hiding it, right? Because it's a life cycle, right? So you color on day one, it's a little too dark, and then next week you like it, and then my roots are starting to grow in, and then
Wait, so how soon are they growing in? 2 weeks?
2 to 3 weeks, you're going to start to see the shed of a little root. And so it's like, how fast can I get back to Jay? So I think that it's important to realize, like, whether it is, the maintenance factor of it, or it is, the way in which you choose to address it, as opposed to being the color that you were, or do you add highlights to it so that it just blends, so that you have, it is really about making sure that you are choosing the path, to least amount of stress. Because that stress is going to affect your hair health, but also
Yeah.
it's just going to affect your life.
Yeah, and it's costly. I mean, that adds up and
Yes.
it takes up a lot of time. I feel like people who are coloring their hair, they're in there for a long time, like
Yeah.
4 or 5 hours. I could not do that.
And did you know that 75% of women color their hair at home?
Oh.
And so that's a result of people getting frustrated by the salon experience and then going to CVS and doing it at home.
Oh, but I'm sure that stuff, whatever you're buying in CVS, probably has terrible ingredients.
No, not great.
And that's seeping into your scalp.
Yeah, because you're not precise like I am. I'm OCD. My grandmother used to vacuum my lap when I got up from the table.
Are you a Virgo?
I'm a Cancer, so I'm more of a crab, but I maybe was affected by a Virgo.
Okay, got it. So, Jay, gray versus white.
Love this topic.
Actually, I've read a study that said women found gray hair to be less attractive than snowy white hair. Is that the case? Is it better to go full white if you're starting to turn gray? Like, should you dye it white? I mean, and isn't gray just part white? Like, what's the difference between gray hair and white hair?
Well, so the thing is that your natural hair color does not just go overnight to white. It goes through a depigmenting process, almost like your favorite pair of jeans. They start off with a nice deep indigo, and then slowly they're a blue, to a lighter blue, to a fade, and then they get a rip. So what happens is our hair, the pigment production slows down. So you have 100%, pigmented hairs, and then you have some that are 50% and 30%. Those in that range are the graying hairs. And then the ones that you can see from across the room in that camera in your bathroom vanity, those are white hairs. And so a hair that is visible in that way is likely lost all pigment. And so that's where your first gray hair is so important to acknowledge, because there are likely 5 or 10 hairs around it that could be in the graying process. And if you can catch them while they're at that point, you can help to repigment them, just like you can prevent a fine line from turning into a wrinkle.
Interesting. Okay, so that's gray versus white. Here's another thing, short versus long. If we have gray hair or white hair, should we go long and flowy or short bob?
I like short and chic, short and sleek, I would say, where it's polished. I think whatever you do with embracing gray, it's about polishing it. And it's about prioritizing texture. So there's the pigment loss and that color change, and then there's the textural change associated with this, which is coarse, dry, brittle, unruly.
That's terrible. I think that's almost even worse.
It is. But that's why Arey has solutions to help.
Ooh.
Because we realize that people, it's not just about the pigment, it's also about the texture. If you're going to embrace the gray, products that actually work for the gray, really simple way to put it, a gray hair strand is like a balloon that has less air. It's a little, on the outside, a little bit unruly and a little bit less smooth. You want to get products that will actually absorb in and fill the hair strand back up, which leaves it feeling smooth.
Right. So at least it feels good. When you say short and chic, that makes me think of May Musk.
May Musk.
Right? Elon
great.
Musk's
Yeah.
mother.
Uh-huh.
And she said that when she was 58, she just let her hair go natural. And her New York casting agent, because she was a model, told her she would never get any booking jobs. But then she changed her haircut to be this like really short bob, and all of a sudden she was a fashion swan. And overnight her career just like went from strength to strength.
Yeah, and I think that is based on the fact too that yes, her hair matched who she was, right?
She's
but
a
she
model,
was also,
right?
she's also
elegant.
confident.
Yeah, she's confident.
She's also, like you said,
Yeah.
a 58-year-old woman.
Yeah.
Should she have dark brown hair that has no change or imperfection to it? Imperfections are a beautiful part of life, these are what create a nuance that make us all different. So I think there is something to leaning into the natural kind of way in which your body is kind of presenting with whatever pigment or color that is. And at some point, we should all probably put the box of color down,
Yeah, yeah. Aside from using your products, what else can we do to delay the gray? Like, are there lifestyle choices? Are there dietary choices? Is it okay if we start later in life?
Absolutely. I mean, ideally, our products are kind of formulated to be like a wrinkle cream. So hair dye would be Botox, and we would be like your hyaluronic acid or your under eye creams or whatever you're doing to preserve youthful skin. We want to preserve youthful hair that way. But simply stated, for me, like when I started to prioritize a well-rounded diet of whole natural foods, eggs, avocados, antioxidants from berries, I found a much better effect in the way that the products were responding to my hair. Also, alcohol, smoking, these other factors.
It's really bad for us.
They're taking away from so many things that the body is going to really result in aging skin and aging hair. And processed foods. I know we hear about this a lot, but just think about it like this. Anything that your body has to, respond to, protect itself from, means that the essential functions of the body, the daily functions of the body, are going to be deprioritized because there's a foreign object in the body that it wants to get rid of. So the more crap we eat, the more that the body has to do something with that. And that means the less it's going to spend on making beautiful hair.
And I feel like this United States is the capital of processed foods. Because in China, every meal is made from fresh food.
Yeah.
Like you go to the market, you buy the fresh meat or you buy your leafy greens, and everything's made from scratch. Like we're not taking tinned stuff, we're not taking pasta out of a bag.
Yeah.
So we really see food as medicine. And from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, we say that gray hair is caused by weak kidneys.
Interesting.
Because kidney is also related, like stress and aging will affect your kidney. And if you think about it, the kidney naturally declines as we age, right? So kidney failure is often a chronic illness for older people. And so traditional Chinese medicine it's just about slowing that aging process.
Yeah.
And that's why we see food as medicine. So like it's part of our diet, it's part of our lifestyle. I remember as a little girl, you kind of just eat whatever your parents put in front of you. But one of my favorite desserts was black sesame paste, black sesame soup.
Which is why you still have all your pigment.
Right, yeah. And you just hear your mother say to you, this is good for your hair. It keeps your hair black. And it's rich in calcium, protein, phosphorus, iron, magnesium. So it has all these minerals. And another of my favorites was walnut soup paste. And it's called like hap to wu is what we call it in Cantonese. And it strengthens your body's qi, which they say helps maintain your hair color.
And it makes perfect sense. First of all, black sesame is the second proprietary ingredient inside of our supplement. We find that faux tea are essential from what we have learned from traditional Chinese medicine and for preservation of pigment and just overall protection from oxidative stress and the free radicals that result from that.
Tell us, how does the black sesame work and how does the faux tea work?
What we're really working with is the oxidative stress when we're exposed to, say, sunlight, for example. The body then will dispel free radicals, and short of eating an incredible amount, like people talk about vitamin and mineral deficiencies, they don't talk about antioxidant deficiency. You need an adequate amount of antioxidants to counteract the things that you're exposed to on a daily basis. And so faux tea and black sesame specifically are very powerful antioxidants that give the body what it needs to neutralize the free radicals that are basically corrupting cells. The way to think about it in real life terms is if you have an apple and it has a brown spot on it, that's a free radical. If you don't carve that bit off, that brown spot will continue to move throughout the other cells.
So we shouldn't eat that brown spot on the apple.
No, you should cut that off as soon as you get it so that you preserve the rest of the apple.
Yes.
And that happens inside of, say, your hair follicle, for example, or your body overall, is that one negative free radical cell will start to corrupt others. And so black sesame
cancer,
and faux tea,
right?
well, that's what ultimately it leads to if it's unchecked.
Yeah.
And so the black sesame and the faux tea, they specifically will help with that antioxidant activity. And faux tea specifically has been also shown to trigger the mechanism that creates melanogenesis in our hair follicle. And so
that's the depletion of melanin or something.
Yeah, well, melanogenesis is the process of which we make melanin. So when you're kind of graying, you're depleting, and it stimulates that element inside the hair follicle, the hair bulge.
Interesting. One thing I do on a weekly basis is acupuncture. And I do it mainly for my feminine health to regulate my period. But every time I go, I'll always have my acupuncturist put some needles in the head. And that's mainly sort of for my sleep because it helps me with sleep and relaxation and stress and tension. But it also does help bring circulation to your scalp.
Yes.
And that is what helps bring nutrients to your hair follicles. And, that obviously influences melanin production.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And that goes back to kind of that early step of brushing. But if you're in traffic, if you want to do something for your hair and your scalp, and you have a minute, instead of scratching, massage.
Yeah.
I always like to tell people, like, the way in which we scratch our scalp, you would never scratch your face that way, right? On the back of your head, you kind of are like, go with your fingernail. You never do that to your cheek.
Yeah, you'd never,
So, massaging the scalp, yes, it can be relaxing, but also, it's bringing blood circulation. It's bringing essential nutrients, and it is bringing red blood cell count, and it's bringing antioxidants. But if you haven't given the body enough of those things, the blood circulation is going to not be as potent as it could be if you were to supplement or eat a healthy diet, things like that.
Yeah, in China, I love to do massages on a weekly basis. Like me
I
and my
love your
friends.
life, by the way.
We always do
sounds
massages.
Great, by the way. Yeah, I'm done being with the Americans. I'm going to go over to this side.
And so usually every Sunday, me and my husband get a massage. And like sometimes I'll be like, just do my head. Just give me a head massage. And yeah, it feels great.
And also lymphatic drainage. I mean, you have to think one of the most sensitive areas on our body is our scalp. One of the most active part of our bodies is our scalp, because the difference between body hair and head hair is the amount of time in which that factory has to continue to grow the hair. So this arm hair is called vellus hair. It grows for about 3 to 6 months, whereas the hair on top of your head.
Oh, it's quick.
Yeah. And so the hair on top of your head, this will grow for anywhere between 3 and 10 years. So it has a lot more.
Wait, what do you mean between 3 and 10? Like one strand?
Yeah. So have you ever had a girlfriend or a friend that's like, my hair doesn't get past a certain point? And it's because their hair doesn't grow for as long as others.
And then it falls off?
Yeah. And then it goes through a process, anagen, catagen, telogen, and then it leaves the body. And when it leaves the body, the follicle then puts new cells together and makes a brand new hair strand. But everybody's growth cycle is different. Yeah. And
so you want to speed it up, right?
Yeah, you want to speed it or you want to elongate it. Right? So a sign of healthy hair is, say these Japanese women with the rice
hair?
water.
Oh, yeah.
Long, beautiful, nourished hair, right? And so, like for us, when in our clinical study, it was all about thicker, fuller, softer hair. That was a measure.
Yeah.
And
Asians actually have our hair is thicker.
Yeah, absolutely. And traditionally, I also think your hair can grow longer than some of the other, people in different ethnic groups or different backgrounds. And so, that is really a marker of health. And that's where there's the pigment. But then for us, we're supporting nutrients that are going to make that hair follicle have a longer growth cycle, longer, healthier hair.
So maybe that's why, when they say like men look at women and try to see what's attractive, men generally find long hair on women more feminine and attractive. Maybe it's just part of our biology.
I think it depends on what life stage you're at, right? Like if you're like, I think like long, beautiful, you're like, like there's something, attractive about that. And maybe, I don't know if it's like, why this person would be a great mother. I don't know what it is. There's something about that early attraction,
hips.
Right?
Wide hips means a woman will be a good mother.
Well, the early attraction, right? Like, there's something, about this person. But I do think
good skin, good hair, shiny hair.
Yeah, like this is I hate to say it like this, but this is a healthy vessel for a child. That's
it's biological.
Biological, exactly. But then as you kind of grow, you're like, well, I do want a partner that's pretty good at finances and keeping the ship in the right working order. Yeah. I think it means like you have your stuff together. They say if you have an organized car, you have your life together. And so I think if you have a
short bob
proper
like me.
Short haircut, I would imagine your house is like put together and organized. Your financial health is tip top.
But that was always the case whether I had long hair or short hair. But anyway, so I
just don't reveal it to the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to do a rapid fire myth buster on going gray and hair loss.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go through 5 of them.
Great.
Number 1, baldness is inherited from your mother's side. True or false?
False.
Because, everybody always says, like, oh, if you want to know if he's going to go bald, look at his maternal grandpa, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. There are so many different factors when it comes to genetics, and there's so many different interactions when it comes to the way in which the body interacts with the genetic composition. They haven't been able to fully determine whether it's male or, grandmother side,
Okay.
grandfather side. What you want to look at is how many people collectively in your lineage have been bald.
On both mother and father side.
Collectively, because that's what's going to give you the determining factor. If your father's grandfather was bald and your mother's side had full head of hair, you have just as much a chance if it were the opposite.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Myth number 2, for a woman, giving birth to a son leads to hair loss. This is a Chinese myth.
That's interesting. I'm going to go with, I don't have any science to back that up. I would say false, because we have all heard the wives' tale of, like, when someone's pregnant with a girl versus a boy, there are different
Signs.
morning sicknesses or different signs. And I do think that is. But I think at the core, for the mother carrying the baby, the hair loss, right, is associated with an increase in progesterone. What happens is while you're pregnant, your progesterone levels are very high. When you have the child and then you stop nursing, your progesterone levels drop. And so you then have what we call a telogen effluvium, which is a rapid hair loss.
Oh, so it doesn't matter if it's a baby girl or a baby boy.
Doesn't matter.
Because I've seen that hair loss in my friends. Like,
Yes.
it is serious. Like, one of my girlfriends, she lost her entire hairline and she went and did a hair transplant because she was beautiful, and then, really damaged her confidence.
But that's based on being a mother and going through that process. Now, it doesn't happen to everybody, but everybody says, I have my thickest, fullest hair when I'm pregnant. It's because you don't lose any. You're supposed to lose 70 to 100 hairs every day.
Oh.
And so for a cumulative 9 to 15 months, you don't lose nearly any. It is going to build up and you're going to see a rapid loss. Again, a telogen effluvium, nothing to worry about, nothing that patients won't fix, and possibly a Arey to the root serum. The key is that that's a natural part of the process.
All right. Myth number 3, pulling out one gray hair makes 2 more grow back.
I got a lot of falses here, but this is false as well. But I'll tell you why we perceive it as such. When you pluck a gray hair, similar to my hair, how it stands on end versus yours, shorter hair is stronger. It stands up. When you pluck that hair, you're going to see it growing in until it falls down. So it's going to be more visible. So my opinion is, if you have a gray hair, try not to pluck it. Try and blend it in. And the longer that it is, the better it will be to kind of disguise it in with the rest of the hair.
Interesting. I will absolutely refuse to do that. I will keep cutting it from the root.
Depends on, but you're just going to have to keep up with it. That's all.
Well,
That's
Dino
all.
will have to keep up with
yeah.
it. Luckily, I have not found a second one since that first one. Okay, myth number 4, gray hair means you're unhealthy.
Nope. That's not, no, not always. That is
Not
false.
always, right?
Not
Sometimes,
always.
but not always.
I would say that in a high percentage of people, it is a determination of not only your actual health, but your lifestyle health. Mm-hmm. The environment that you live in, the sun exposure that you are, a part of, and potentially other, lifestyle factors, right? Again, I would say if you are starting to see gray rapidly at an age that you think is too young, I would take stock
Gen
on your health.
Zers.
Take stock on your health. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the last one, hair loss is a symptom of menopause.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. That is true. That's a true one. And it's really the way that to best determine it is that when we are going in perimenopause,
Which is age 45 onwards.
Yep. And in some cases, to your point of the gray at 19, some cases it's a little bit earlier.
Oh, actually, well, because, ever since starting my feminine care brand, Anti-Vorta, it turns out, half of our customers are actually in perimenopause and above. So, and you've probably been seeing the news, like menopause as a topic has been blowing up this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so a woman enters perimenopause, generally speaking, at 45, menopause at 51. But I have a lot of girlfriends, and even Naomi Watts, right, the actress, she famously went into menopause at the age of 37.
Yeah.
I feel like all my friends' daughters are getting their periods at the age of 9 years old, which is way too early, right? I mean, we were getting our periods at like 13 or 14, but girls nowadays are getting their periods younger and then going into menopause earlier.
How this affects the hair is very simple. When you are experiencing perimenopause and then finally get to, your day of menopause or your moment of menopause, you are going to see the hormones change. It's not that you have more testosterone, it's that you have less estrogen. And when you have less estrogen, whether you're male or female, the testosterone is going to be converted to something called DHT. And DHT finds its way to your scalp. And what it does is it suffocates your hair follicles. It does this by building up elastin and collagen, and so it makes the surface area in which a hair strand can grow smaller. So it's classified as thinning. And
Which
it
is
can
terrible.
lead to
I mean,
loss.
thinning just sounds terrible.
Absolutely.
So if a woman is in menopause and she's struggling from hair loss, then maybe she should turn to hormone replacement therapy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because people used to do that, and then there was this whole hullabaloo, it was, where they were like, oh, it's cancer causing. So all these women stopped it. But actually, I think now we realize it's not cancer causing. Yeah. And so if you take hormone replacement therapy, then your estrogen doesn't drop. Sorry, was it progesterone?
Oh no, your estrogen.
Yeah,
your estrogen will stay
the same, which means that you won't suffer that hair loss.
Yes, yeah. And there's also then to the other side, if I've had many customers and clients that are still a little bit gun shy of HRT, hormone replacement therapies.
That's understandable.
But there are topical solutions that can be applied that will neutralize the DHT.
Like what?
That's what minoxidil is.
Oh,
so
minoxidil.
Minoxidil.
And can you just buy it as a liquid?
Yeah, you can just buy it as a liquid.
Over at CVS at the drugstore?
Yeah, and I mean, I always recommend two things. One, as soon as you see a change in your hair, ask the question. Don't wait. It's not going to get better. You want to take a step of action, and that step of action is either a trichologist or a dermatologist.
What does a trichologist mean?
A trichologist is someone who sits between a dermatologist and a hairstylist. Our job as a trichologist is to find the causation factor. It's to ask questions. When did you have your last period? Is that regular? It's to ask questions that your hairstylist might not want to ask you in a salon, and you might not want to answer. But it's important to find someone that can kind of dig in and help you figure it out, because typically the way that you want to look at hair health, what you're experiencing now is the result of something that happened 3 to 6 months ago.
Or how you've been living, your life in the past, right?
That's right. It's not going to get better unless you make a change.
Yeah.
Right. And so, that's also self-perception. We love when we do something.
So before we wrap up, I'm going to ask a silly question, which is, in general, does the carpet match the drapes? Right? Do pubic hairs turn gray? Because since going into feminine care and starting Antivorta, and for listeners out there, we have wash, wipes, and sprays for your vulva, for your intimate area, that fights odor, dryness, and irritation. But since starting this, I feel like I have a unique perspective.
Yes, you do.
On the nether region and also pubic hair.
Well, I haven't been out in the wild in a long time, but what I will say is that different from your, I can answer this actually from a trichologist perspective. Your pubic hair, it has a shorter shelf life, which means that it's not likely to turn gray because it's not having to produce as much pigment for as long a period of time as our head hair is. So our head hair is likely to go gray because, like we said, it has to grow for 3 to 10 years. So after a while, that part of the factory slows down. You also, just in general, you're trying to produce more pigment over a long period of time. For those of you out there that this is, happening with, we're happy to have your thoughts.
It hasn't happened to me. But I'm curious,
I watched Sex and the City at least 3 times, and I saw that Samantha had this problem.
Did she talk about it?
You need to put this on here.
No, wait, Samantha had
Bozo, she dyed it. And it turned orange, and then she looked like Bozo the Clown. And then the 2000s started, and everybody got rid of it all.
Well, yeah. So so our chief medical advisor for Antivorta, Dr. Alexander Lin, and he's a director of OBGYN at Northwestern Medicine. So he says that removing your pubic hair can disrupt the natural microbiome of your vaginal area. So, which actually makes you more susceptible to things like, yeast infections or BV, etc.
Makes sense.
And what's interesting, so I'm born in the 80s, I'm a mature millennial. We all do grooming, right? Now the younger ones are going fully bare. I feel like for my generation, it's sort of like a crapshoot, like maybe like a bunch of people are bare. I won't disclose what exactly I am. I'll let you wonder. But younger kids like in their teens and 20s are fully bare. In fact, if they see pubic hair, they're like, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah.
In the changing room.
But if you think about it like this, to relate it to your nose, our nose has hairs for a reason, and that is to stop bacteria, stop particles, stop other things.
It's a filter.
Yeah. So, I mean, the body, I think this goes back to why I told people to stop coloring their hair. We got to listen to the body. The body knows what's up, right? If you want to live a long life, you want to live a happy life, stop trying to fight what the body is telling you about what is going on. Listen to it.
Yeah.
And if you do that, it's going to be so much easier. Now, listen, if you want to shave off your pubic hair, if you want to keep it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you might have to, use more products.
Do your landing strip, use some anti-vorta product.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of product, I sent your wife a box of anti-vorta product. Did she say anything?
She said she loved it, but more so loved the discreetness of it in a way where, I guess as a male counterpart in her life, I think these types of products have almost been too much in your face. It's almost off-putting branding, right?
Oh yeah,
so
it's like an outdated view of femininity, right? It's like something covered with daisies, or your vagina should not smell like spring flowers.
Or it just says nearly vagina on the packaging. And so I think there's an element of it fit easily into her purse, and it
the wipes.
And exactly,
and
the wipes is the wipes
they're individually
more specifically.
packaged.
Yeah, but the way in which kind of just like kind of blends in, I think that there's a tastefulness to it, and I think there shouldn't be a stigma around cleanliness. I feel like sometimes there's this thing where we think that someone's done something wrong, but when you use the restroom and you wash your hands, have you done something wrong? No, you're just being preventative. So I think to that point, someone who has an 8-year-old daughter who tells me to make sure that I wash my hands all the time.
Yeah.
It's all about trying to set her up to not see it as a stigmatized thing.
Yeah, I'm glad and all of our products are made with traditional Chinese medicine.
Well, that's the other side. There's, we're obviously very focused on ingredient stories in our house and understanding foods that we put into our body and all of that. And so I think it's an area that not many people have revolutionized in some way or actually put more thought into. And I think that for such an intimate part of the body, it's so important more than anything else that what you're going to use as far as ingredients is concerned.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for joining us today. You've helped us really rethink this conversation around gray hair, aging, beauty standards. And listeners, whether you choose to embrace your gray or to hide it, the most important thing is to do what feels right to you. Thank you all for tuning in to Mind Your Manners. This is your host and etiquette life guide, Sara Jane Ho. And remember, no matter what life throws at you, with me in your ear, you got this. Visit our YouTube channel to watch the full episode, and don't forget to subscribe, like,